Jake grew up in a small town in the Midwest. The streets were quiet, the houses modest, and everyone knew each other. His father, Tom, worked at the local factory, leaving before sunrise and coming home exhausted every evening. His mother, Linda, was a teacher at the nearby school. The house was simple but warm. Jake's room was small, with posters of baseball players and a few motivational quotes he liked, but he never thought much about them. From a young age, Jake noticed the difference between his father and the people he read about in books and online. His father's life was steady, predictable, and hard. Most of the adults in town seemed to live the same way, quiet, routine, unremarkable. Jake didn't want that. He wanted excitement, change, and the feeling of being somewhere bigger than this town. Tom, his father, tried to warn him many times. Life doesn't happen overnight, he would say while drinking coffee in the morning. You can't skip steps. Jake would nod but not really listen. He thought his father didn't understand the world he wanted to live in. At 17, Jake started spending more time online, reading stories about young entrepreneurs, people who started businesses, made money, and became successful in months. He followed their steps carefully, or so he thought, and imagined that he could do the same. Every time his father said, "Be patient," Jake felt it was holding him back. After high school, Jake went to a nearby college to study business. He attended classes, but his mind was elsewhere. He spent nights researching online, writing down ideas, watching videos of startups, and sketching business plans. He often skipped lectures to work on his own ideas. He wanted fast results, fast recognition, fast success. During college, he took part-time jobs. First at a local cafe, then at a small marketing firm. They were never enough to give him the feeling of progress he wanted. He got frustrated easily when tasks were repetitive or slow. The office work felt boring, the schedules suffocating, and the pay minimal. Every day he compared himself to the people online who supposedly succeeded fast. By the time he graduated, he was restless. Jake told his father, "I can't do this small town life anymore. I want to move somewhere, start something, make a mark." His father didn't argue. He just said, "Make sure you can handle the steps before you chase the spotlight." Jake left, feeling impatient. He moved into a small apartment in a city a few hours away. It was cramped, but it was his first taste of independence. He spent weeks planning, sketching, emailing, and connecting with people who promised opportunities. For the first few weeks, he felt alive. He stayed up late, sometimes until 3 a.m., working on plans, sending proposals, and dreaming. Soon, the first problem appeared. He invested some of his savings in an online business tip he received. It seemed small, harmless, like everyone else was doing it. But a week later, the person vanished, the website shut down, and his money disappeared. Jake panicked, but he didn't tell anyone. He tried to recover, making more decisions based on what he thought was fast success. Every choice seemed urgent. Friends he had met in the city began to drift away. Some weren't reliable, others only cared about quick wins. Jake realized that many of the people he trusted were in it for themselves. He spent nights in his small apartment staring at his laptop, checking messages that never came. The loneliness hit harder than the financial loss. One night, Jake sat on the floor, leaning against the wall, exhausted. For the first time, he remembered his father's words, not as criticism, but as truth. Life doesn't happen overnight. You can't skip steps. He realized that all the shortcuts he took had led him here. Money gone, trust broken, opportunities lost. He picked up the phone and called his father. The voice on the other end was calm, patient. "I know," his father said, with no anger, no lecture, just understanding. Jake didn't ask for money or advice. He just wanted a plan to rebuild. The next day, Jake found a small office job. Nothing exciting, nothing glamorous. He worked long hours, learning the work carefully. He focused on small tasks, correcting mistakes no one noticed. Months passed. There was no applause, no rapid growth. But slowly, he built skills, relationships, and a sense of control. He took notes, learned new software, observed processes, and paid attention to details he would have ignored before. Each day, he made small progress. He still dreamed of starting his own business, but this time, he planned carefully, saved money, and built connections he could trust. 2 years later, Jake finally felt ready. He rented a small office, hired a tiny team, and started his own company. It wasn't instant success. Clients were few, payments slow, and the work demanding. But he was prepared. Mistakes happened, but they were manageable. He adjusted strategies, learned from errors, and stayed consistent. Over the next several years, the company slowly grew. Jake had earned respect from clients and colleagues. He finally experienced the kind of success he had imagined as a teenager, not fast, not flashy, but solid and lasting. He could afford a bigger apartment, better resources, and a steady team. Looking back, Jake realized why his father warned him. The warnings weren't to limit him but to prepare him for the reality he had to face. Every mistake he made taught him something no shortcut could. Every failure built resilience. Every long hour in the office added to his experience. When someone asked Jake about his journey, he didn't talk about shortcuts, luck, or instant results. He simply said, it didn't happen overnight. And he meant it, not as a cliché, but as the story of every step, every mistake, every effort that brought him here. Jake's father never got a speech from him, never got a lecture or a lesson. But every time he called, every time he shared a small achievement, there was quiet understanding. And that understanding, Jake realized, was worth more than any shortcut he had chased in his youth. By the time he looked out from the window of his office years later, Jake understood that life wasn't about speed. It was about showing up, making choices, learning from mistakes, and keeping moving forward. The city outside looked bigger than ever, but he no longer wanted to rush. He had built something real. And this time, he knew he would never ignore a step again.